Place a little chord there.
Do you think I'm sexy, Bob? That's the question I want to know. Do you think I'm sexy?
What, with the leopard skin and the plastic guitar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you as well?
Right, quite right.
Of course, because back in the 70s, you know, it was all about the show, wasn't it? It was about the, you know, Mark Bowl and T-Rex.
Oh yeah.
Also, you know, like Rod Stewart, you know, who had 3 great guitar players in his band in the 70s.
Who were they? Who were they?
I don't know, but they were. He always had. I remember.
There was a guy called Gary Granger at one point.
Might be him, because there was a guy with a flying V.
Yeah, Les Paul.
Yeah, there was one with a Les Paul. There was one with a flying V and a trem on it.
Oh.
And there was another guy.
Okay.
And there were 3 really.
Okay.
You know. Well, he had Jeff Beck, didn't he?
Well, also, I mean, he's a massive act. Well,
Yeah.
That is in the middle of because by the end of the 70s he was doing Vegas and all that stuff and then in Fulci.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wearing leopard print.
Wearing leopard print. Leopard and feather boas and what have you.
Yeah. We thought we'd dress up today for this special video, all on these iconic guitars. And what we've got here, Bob, we've got the real deal, and we've also got a copy from Japan.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So,
this was actually my second guitar ever.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
So before we go into it, Bob, could you just explain to us who is Dan Armstrong? I mean, we've heard of Ampeg, haven't we? Because they make amplifiers.
They make amplifiers.
Bass amps.
They make particularly bass amps, still very revered. But in the 60s they got into making bass guitars and then guitars.
Yeah, because they had a bass guitar that the Santana guy played. It had like almost a double bass
scroll.
hit.
Yeah.
Beautiful thing.
There were 2 different kinds of Ampeg. One had a great big sort of scroll thing, and the other was kind of semi-hollow. All sort of, you could almost put your hand through it. You could sort of see through the guitar. And they were both quite weird shapes. Very collectible now, very iconic. But in the later 60s, they got in touch with a very famous luthier and repairer in New York called Dan Armstrong.
And Dan Armstrong did the Orange Squeezer, didn't he?
He did those little that then kind of morphed into being electro-harmonics.
Oh, really?
Well, because in those days, I mean, a lot of effects were like little pressed, you know, folded metal tins.
So was Dan Armstrong the actual electro-harmonics guy?
No, I don't think so.
Because that was another guy, wasn't it?
I think it was another guy, but I mean...
And he had a crazy story, didn't he?
He had a crazy story, but around that time, everyone was experimenting, especially with fuzz boxes, treble boosters. They were the big rage. And I remember... At that time, back in the day, when I owned this guitar for the first time, I had a Guild Foxy Lady, which was an Electro Harmonics rebranded. It was rebranded Guild.
Well, oh yes, yeah.
I mean, now they're very collectible. It was a very sharp sounding pedal.
Yeah.
Real good. Not my taste at all. But
so that was kind of like the 70s. Everybody was high on drugs, and everyone was just crazy, weren't they? I mean, you know, I was born in the mid 70s, but I just remember, you know. All the TV, the American TV series, everyone was nuts.
They were, and the kind of clothing was just insane. You know, flared trousers and colours and stuff.
The famous saying was, "If you remember the 70s,
you weren't there.
You weren't there."
Absolutely, and the 60s.
And the 60s. Oh yeah,
and the 60s. Anyway, so Dan Armstrong was a kind of well-known luthier, and basically Ampeg contracted him to make them an electric guitar for their range. And so what he did, the first thing, I mean, when we did the video the other day about the Les Paul specials and about the PRS, so Paul Reed Smith got his inspiration originally from a double cutaway Les Paul, probably a junior, but it could have been a special. So did Dan Armstrong. These guitars are also modelled on that guitar. So, you know, another tribute to Gibson for having got it right, even in their student guitars.
Yes.
Right? That, you know, not one but 2 famous luthiers basically took the template, but in Dan Armstrong's case, what he was looking for was a guitar that really sustained, and he thought the best sustain would be from the most inert material. Right,
which is plastic.
It's acrylic. Acrylic. Yeah, and with a maple neck and a rosewood fingerboard.
So let's just play a chord and see if it sustains, Bob.
And I think the answer on your face that you're looking for is not particularly.
No, not really. No. I'm not blown away.
This guitar, I've had it quite a long time. I've played it quite a lot. It's got a fantastic neck.
Yeah.
But does it sing?
Well, listen. It's a nice I think as I'm getting to know this guitar, guys, I'm guessing Ronnie Wood, you know, wearing these shirts. Ronnie Wood, it is quite a British look. It's quite a British.
And Keith, of course, he went mad for these.
But you know, this and this is quite a British thing, isn't it?
It is. It's a British look.
If you're looking, you know, American looking at British, it's crazy, isn't it?
T-Rex revival.
This is quite, guys. This is the British. We need to bring this back. You know, the young kids need to be wearing this stuff. You know, playing one of these, and you know,
instead of their tasteful, subdued taupe colours.
Yeah, all this hipster. It's boring. God, it's so boring. Oh my god. Anyway, so what I wanted to ask you, Bob, because Bob is the fountain of knowledge. That he is the oracle of the guitar world. That is Bob. Bob, my question to you is, why did Ronnie Wood play this guitar?
For show. They bought them for show. They're very showy guitars.
Right.
I mean, they're nice guitars. You know, play well, no problem.
Because Keith had one of these as
yeah,
well.
Keith had one as well. But of course, remember, at that time they were playing through those big solid state amps as well. So, I mean...
They were playing Ampegs, weren't they?
Yeah,
I think they were playing Ampegs.
Or Sons or something, yeah.
I think Keith...
Probably depends on the tour.
Yeah.
But the main reason this guitar was popular was for show. It looked fantastic. And the other thing about this guitar is you can see this kind of channel here. There's a screw on the back, just undo with a regular, you know, Phillips screwdriver just here, and the pickup slides out. And these guitars were offered with a choice of 6 pickups,
which all probably sounded the same.
Country bass, country treble, rock bass and rock treble, and something else.
Have you tried different pickups in it?
I have. A friend of mine in France has got all 6.
Do they sound different? Or
They do sound. I mean, they're basically all darker or brighter.
Oh,
yeah?
okay, right.
Yeah, they're not really very different. But I've also got for this. I've got Dan Armstrong is deceased now, but his son Kent is a well-known pickup maker, and Kent continues to support these guitars. So I've got a Kent humbucker pickup, which again just slides in with 2 rails and clips in, and that makes this guitar. It's quite nice. It makes it very hot.
Right.
It's a rock guitar. It hasn't got much subtlety of character, but it's a good
rock guitar. I mean, because if you think about it, the Stones. You can do that, can't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard if you want to get the Eric Clapton, Peter Green, you know. That's when it's not going to give you.
But you know, with the possible exception of you know, during Mick Taylor's tenure, the Stones have never really been about that kind of lead guitar, have they? They're much more about the woven rhythmic. That's the thing, and that's, you know, amazing. It's exquisite. But that lends itself to a kind of rhythmy guitar rather than the lead soloist guitar.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So
that's an original.
And what are you holding here? So second guitar?
Yeah, this was my second guitar. My first guitar was a Japanese. It was a Zenta brand, 30 quid.
So what were you thinking, Bob, wearing that shirt and buying that guitar?
Well, I wasn't wearing this shirt at the time. If I was, this shirt would stink by now, wouldn't it?
No, but I'm saying, I'm guessing it was you. This is
full circle, you mean?
Yeah,
full circle, something like that. No, but I was looking for a better guitar than this Zenta thing, because this Zenta thing was really quite horrible. It was a copy. For those of you that know out there what these look like, it was a copy of a Mosrich Ventures guitar. So it was a Stratocaster that had been turned over. So it was like a reverse Stratocaster with a groove carved in the side, what would be known as a German carve on a semi-acoustic. So a kind of channel around the side. 2 really horrible weak pickups, each with its own switch. A tremolo unit that just used to put the thing out of tune as soon as you looked at it. So a pretty horrible beginner's guitar, but it was my beginner's guitar. This was my second guitar, and the reason I bought it, partly because it was a bit of flash, but mainly because it's got quite a big neck, very wide, very flat. It's got a really good action.
So if you look at the back of the neck, guys, compared to the original, you can see here, if you just show this to camera, Bob, that this has actually got a couple of bits of cherry or something, and then another piece of maple either side.
Yeah, so it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 piece of neck.
And a scarf joint.
Scarf joint onto that, and what's interesting is that this is all one piece of wood, but again, you can see in both these cases, the neck has to be carved out to go under the strings, so this is the weak point on these guitars. Mm-hmm. And here you can see that actually the whole thing is only holding on There's not much in it. I mean, fortunately, this guitar, it's only been in my possession. I'm really careful with my guitars. I'm light on them. I've never dropped it. But if you drop this guitar, I'm pretty sure the neck will be off.
Yeah. So another question is, if you look here at the edge, this has got a really nice. Probably this guitar's got a nicer edge than this one.
Yeah, I mean, again, in those days, I mean, this is the days when the Japanese were copying all the American guitars, but they were all trying to make a little bit of a difference so they wouldn't get sued. So these are very, very close, but this is not an identical copy. That would get them out of the jails. Yeah. Whereas a few years later, maybe 74, 75, Ibanez started copying your Les Pauls and your L5Ss so accurately that they became what were known as lawsuit guitars. Yeah. Or, an Ibanez ES175 looks like a Gibson 175 with Ibanez.
I mean, they're killer guitars.
They are.
So what about can you swap the pickup? Tell me about the pickup on this.
Okay, so this guitar originally came with two rather nasty, cheap pickups that were literally stuck in adjacent to each other, and this was the pickup switch. In fact, this pickup switch was bigger, the tone and volume, and I put a different pick guard on it. This is a Kent Armstrong pickup actually, from way back, like 25 years.
So this is, guys, there's Dan Armstrong and then Kent Armstrong. Is that his son?
His son.
That's really crazy because I've just got a Kent Armstrong for my Ibanez George Benson.
There you go.
And great sound, guys. Kent Armstrong.
Kent Armstrong is one of the great pickup winders of the world. He's been doing it a long time. He knows what he's doing. This is an old pickup of his, and the only thing this switch does now, because there's only one pickup, this switch now takes the coils from series to parallel.
And it's also got this nice formica.
Well, yeah. Although to be fair, I mean, I have messed around with this guitar. I've also changed the shape of the headstock. I got my saw out one day, and that was a bloody stupid thing to do. But you do some stupid things.
So why did you do that?
Because I didn't like the shape of the original was a very, very conventional, almost like a BC Rich paddle shape. It didn't look like that. So I did this, which messed up. I changed the machine heads to Spurzels, which was good thing. But also, having done that, I needed another piece of formica. So I got this formica, which is all right, but that's much nicer. If you feel that, it's really old and hard and heavy. Yeah. This feels a bit modern and plasticky. Right.
So what did it have before there?
Something that looked very much like that, but it's long gone, it's long lost, I'm afraid.
So
the other thing about these guitars is, and in fact we're both doing this wrong, can you see around here there's cracking?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's because these get yanked all the time. So you really ought to play these with a right angle jack. Because this always breaks.
So my question is, because this neck looks really tasty, what's the playability? Has this been refretted?
No.
What's the playability of this versus this?
Well, that's much nicer. And the reason is because the frets on that are really good. They're kind of medium. They're not huge jumbo Jackson frets, but they're not really skinny. This neck is fantastic, but the frets that were put on it from birth, if you run your finger along, you can feel it. They're really low.
They're chunky, wide.
They're wide but low, so they're not even like the old Martin or 50s Gibson guitars. And consequently, this guitar has always been slightly tricky to play because it's a bit slippery to play. Yeah. So for a long time, I kind of just hobbled along with it. In fact, the story is, I sold this to a chum of mine when I was at school to fund my first Gibson. Yeah. And many years later, I was having dinner with him and his dad, because the families were friends, and this guitar, every time I went up to their house, I played this guitar. And I said to his dad, well, I'd like to buy that guitar back off you. He said, fine, I'll give it to you for what I paid you, which was 60 quid. So I bought it back. And it's been in its case ever since. The case is gorgeous. So, and it's an English case, green lining, fitted. It's a brilliant little case. But I had it for years. I wasn't really playing it. I had it for sentimental value, and I suddenly thought, hang on, send that for slide.
Right. And do you think it's a better guitar as a slide guitar than a normal guitar?
Well, it is. I mean, if you wanted to play this as a normal guitar, you'd probably have to refret it.
Right, okay, you've got
it. Some nice frets, but it'd play beautifully if you refretted it.
Right.
But, I've got a few other guitars, I don't need it, so I need an electric slide guitar, so I play slide on it.
And you don't want to because the thing about Bob is, I often see him with this guitar, because a lot of people might think that Bob is a bit of a snob, and, you'd be wrong, okay?
Thank you.
Because Bob, I often see him playing the cheaper guitars.
Yeah. True.
And so he's definitely not. In fact, when I first met you, we had Darren, didn't we, over with?
That's right.
And we had this £50 Strat, no name Strat.
That's right.
And you guys were just playing it for hours.
Yeah.
you know, and there was a room full of.
It was unbelievably cheap guitar, and we all agreed it was a really good guitar. You could have gigged it that night, no worries.
Yeah. So it's nice to have the original for, you know, these are maybe £5 now.
Maybe not quite as much. Maybe 3.5.
3.5, yeah.
Yeah.
But you can certainly find some.
This is worth next to nothing, especially as I've mucked about with it.
Yeah.
This is worth next to nothing. So, you know, again, it's like, well hold on. But I need, in my band, I play slide on 2 or 3 songs.
Yeah.
I need a slide guitar. Here you go.
So guys, little video here for you, just checking out the copy and the real deal. We're going to leave you with a bit of T-Rex, but in E.
Are we?
Yeah.
What, with slide?
Yeah.
I've never heard that
14th fret. 14th fret.
14th fret, yeah.
We're going to leave you guys, God bless, we're going to leave you, you're sexy, we're sexy, we're going to leave you with a bit of T-Rex. Here we go.
Well, we've never done that before. See you next time. Bye.
Take care, guys.